Hey, welcome to the new lecture on team building. In this lecture, we are going to discuss how a startup can develop their teams, a team that could lead to the success of the startup. Right. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss what makes a great team, how to find the great team, right, and all those things, and how to attract good employees to your startup. Right. So these things I hope will help you build the right team for your startup, right? And as we have discussed in the start of the course, that this is all about making organizations, right, bringing together resources. So it's not only about bringing finances, it's not only bringing about the furniture and the office space, but the most important thing is the teams at the same time, right? And when we talk about the team, so in this lecture you will learn that team is not only about the employees, rather there are other resources that you could also consider as your team members, right? So we'll start with this concept, right, that a B category idea with A category team is always better than A category idea and B category team, right? So if you are given a choice, two choices, let's say, there's a very good idea, right, but a second class team, right? And on the other hand, there is a B category idea with A category team, right? So what will you choose, right? Definitely that depends on your own understanding and vision, right? But if you ask me, I will definitely go with the B category idea with the A category team, right? Because it is the team, it is the execution that matters most rather than the idea. So no matter how brilliant the idea is, if the people involved in executing the idea are not good quality, so definitely it would be a failed idea. They will try their best to make their idea failure, right? In other words, right? So team is so much important than the idea, because it is the execution that is so much important than the idea, right? And as we discussed a while ago, a team is not only about the employees, rather there are other people, those should also be considered as part of the team, right? As you can see here, we can see that there are the key employees, and just wait a minute. Right, so here we have the key employees, and then we have the board of directors, and then we have other professionals like the accountants, like legal advisors. So those are also your team members. Lenders and investors, definitely it makes a lot of difference if you take the loan, if you get investment from a guy who has no experience in your sector, right? So definitely it would be a problem for you guys. And then the board of advisors, they could be your teachers, they could be industry experts, they could be family members, and so on. So together they will give you advices. And definitely the management team, right? The CEOs and the CTOs and all those guys, they are also. And here you have you and your partners, they make. So together all these different types of people, they make a good team, right? So yes, that is all about understanding about what are the different types of people that makes a team. Now coming to the main question, what is it that makes great teams? We can see in our lives that there are certain sporting teams who do great under a certain leadership, and then at the same time we see there are startups and there are entrepreneurs who end up making extremely big corporations, extremely big businesses, right? And then there are other types of entrepreneurs who end up with small businesses throughout their lives, right? So what is it that makes these teams different than who make great businesses, and other teams they end up making small businesses in their entire lives, right? So what is it that make great teams? So basically there are three different qualities that make great teams, right? One, the values and the vision, right? So the team members should have the same values, right? Definitely what they value most, they value the value for the customer most, or they value the money most, right? At the same time, what are their work habits, how they work, right? Some people, they are too lazy, some people, they are free riders, right? So how the team works basically, right? So what is their work ethics, what is their professional values, right? So that counts. So if all the team members have the same values, definitely they would have they would end up becoming a great team. But if there is a difference between the values of one employee than another employee, one employee working under one type of values, another employee working under different sets of values, definitely it's not going to make a great team, right? And at the same time, what is involved with this is the vision, right? So one guy is just doing the job in the very sense of the job to get the salary at the end of the month, while the other guy is working hard to make one of the greatest companies in the world, right? So definitely two visions, two different types of visions, right? So one is very short-sighted or myopic in his vision, while the other is too broad and too futuristic or too great in his vision, right? So if a team is made up of guys with different types of visions, so definitely it is not going to make a great team. So the team members should have a great team. At the same time, if you get loan, if you get investment from an investor and who is interested in monthly revenue for his investment, then definitely he and you are just building a great startup which is not going to make any monthly or yearly revenue for 5 years, right? So definitely you got different visions, and think about getting the loan and making a team with that type of investor at the same time, right? Then the second thing that makes a great team is the expertise, right? Definitely the expertise matter. If the team is made of mediocre skills, right, so definitely it's not going to make a great team, right? When it comes to expertise, so definitely the diversity of expertise at the same time matters. Right? For example, if all the team is made of business graduates, right, so yes, it can be a great team, but if there is no technical guy in the team, so it's not that great team, right? And vice versa. If all the team is made of the technical guys with no business acumen, business expertise, so then definitely it is not going to be a great team, right? And definitely experience also counts in the expertise, right? So if all the team members are having less than 1 year of experience, right? So definitely it's not going to be as great a team as the team that is having 10 plus years of experience, right? So expertise not only in terms of the educational background, but also the industrial background, plus also the experience level of the team members, right? So a variety is important. So the greater the diversity in the team, so the greater the expertise of the team, and probably it will end up becoming a great team, ending up with great businesses, right? The third element that is important for making great teams is the trust, right? Trust is the key. Trust is the key among the team members. If there is no trust among the team members and one guy is just stealing all the ideas and selling it to some other people, or maybe he's not taking care of the rest of the team members and he's only thinking about himself, right? So probably other team members become suspicious and they do not put enough effort in the business or in the startup, right? So trust is important, right? So to conclude, all these three different elements are required to make great teams, right? So next time you are making a team with your fellows or the family members, right, then definitely you should consider these three different factors, whether they exist among you guys, you got the same, you share the same vision, you share the same values, you are bringing in diverse experience and expertise to the team, and if all the team members are trusting each other or not, so definitely that will define the rest of the journey of the startup, right? So just one caution or one warning sign here, just I want to share from a research. Most of the time startups, they hire from their close family and friends, right? It can be good, it can be bad at the same time, right? But most of the time it doesn't feel good, it doesn't end up good, because that professionalism doesn't exist. Your friends do not expect you to dictate them or point them to do certain tasks, or they are not as responsible as, and they take things very casually as like in your social circles, right? So think about that. Even if you are hiring people from your close friends and family members, definitely merit should be there, right? What is it that they are bringing into the team? The diversity that we discussed just a while ago, right? If they're not bringing any expertise or any addition to the team, and they're not improving the existing team composition, so think again about hiring those guys in the team, right? So that is important for building strong teams. Now, the key for a startup, how to find and retain and hire the right talent for your startup, right? So we'll start with this notion that as an entrepreneur, your job is not to lead people. Your job is not to lead in the very sense of leading and dictating people. Rather than your job is to bring more talented people than you, right? It may feel awkward at times. You are not as talented as intelligent as other people, but again, you have to do that for the sake of the startup, right? So as an entrepreneur, you'll be as successful as the talent you can attract and retain to your startup, right? If you end up attracting the bad talent and the low quality talent, then definitely that will be the fate of the organization. That will be the fate of your startup, right? So this is what you as a startup can do, right? Definitely as a startup, we know you do not have much finances to go for a job advertisement, to promote it on the internet or the Google, right? And go for all those different steps of recruitment, right? You need someone talented and who can just start working by tomorrow, right? So it's very unconventional type of hiring for you guys, right? So some of the unconventional use you can employ to hire people are headhunting, right? You know people from the market, and you know who can do what and who is who and what is what, right? So you can go for the job head hunting, right? At the same time, you can use referrals. You can ask your friends and colleagues in other organizations who can refer you good quality managers, good quality sales managers, right? For example, right? So technical guys maybe, so they can help you with those referrals, right? Yes, friends and the family, definitely, right? It could be, as we discussed, it could be a disaster for your startup. But again, if you put some principles, some merit in the hiring process, then definitely the friends and the family, the trust matter is resolved, right? And definitely, if the professionalism and you sort out things before hiring them into your startup, right? Like, for example, what is expected of them and what could be the penalties, what could be the punishment, right? All those things, right? So it could be a good hire for you guys, right? But care should be taken when hiring from the friends and the family members, right? Social networks, right? You have so much following. You follow so many people on the Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, right? So you can use social networks, right? And definitely the communities. So you can hire people from there. From the Facebook post, you know people. And by the way, your Facebook profile is the new CV of you guys, right? That tells you the basic interest in what you do, right? So on a side note, I would just recommend you guys to post some professional updates on your Facebook and LinkedIn at the same time, right? It shouldn't always be about like food and movies and songs and political discussion on your Facebook profile, right? Rather, you should be posting about what you learned in your class today, what you saw in the university today, what kind of conferences you attended today, what kind of updates you have about the recent updates, right? So all these things, definitely it adds up to your Facebook, right? So if your potential employer, even if your potential employer or co-founder looks at your profile or social media profile, he will understand you are more a professional guy, right? So that will help, right? So coming back to the main topic, right? So you see all these people on your social media and the communities, and by their post, you know what kind of guy he is, right? So potentially he could be your team member in the future as a founder, as a co-founder, or maybe as an investor, or maybe as a technical guy in your team, or maybe a business executive in your team, right? So these are the different ways you can hire for your startup, right? And definitely, I will come back to the point, you cannot afford publishing in the newspaper or in the hiring agencies. You cannot pay their fee because you don't have much fee, right? So these are some unconventional ways through which you can hire better quality people, right? And at the same time, you save some money for your startup at the same time, right? So this is how you can hire the right talent for your startup. While you're conducting the interviews and hiring the people, so these are some of the tips that you can keep in mind while hiring your employees, right? First thing first, right? understand what you really need, and you can honestly offer, right? So if you do not need someone, let's say you do not need a social media manager or a graphic designer, then why you should hire that guy, right? So hire until and unless you feel the real need for hiring that guy, right? And once you hire them, do not overpromise them, right? You know you are a startup and you cannot give them big salaries and good vacations and 9 to 5 hours job, right? So you can plainly tell them that you can sometimes you can pay them at the end of the month, and sometimes there will be times when there are no revenues in the startup, so even they cannot have a salary for 2 or 3 months, right? So just honestly tell them, right? Do not or promise them or do not lie to them, right? So that is the key to hiring the people, right? Because it will save you from shame in the future, right? So that is what you can do. The second tip that I can give you guys is to create an accurate and attractive job description, right? Again, it's a little bit dodgy over here. Having a clear job description for a startup could be bad for you guys, right? Because there is multitasking. Startups are all about multitasking, right? So if a guy is a finance guy, so it is expected that he would be promoting on the social media at the same time, right? So that is what we call as the multitasking, right? So a very clear cut job description is not recommended for the startup, right? But at least you should have some broader description of the job, that what is expected of him, right? So have a very accurate, but again not very precisely described job description, because then the guy would refuse to do other tasks for your startup, right? So keep this thing in mind, that having a flexible job description for the guy, right? Then the third tip that I can give is the create an interview scorecard, right? To have a standard type of result for your startup, right? As human beings, we are prone to be emotional at times, and we are prone to forget things at times, right? So it is recommended that you should have an interview scorecard. By the interview scorecard, I mean that you should have a set of certain questions, and it should be converted into some numbers, right? Like for example, if a guy is masters, then you can give a master education, so then you can give 10 marks to master education. If a guy has 1 year of experience, then you can have 1, and the number of years experience goes, so then the number goes up. So at the end, if the guy has 10 years of experience with masters, so then he would get 20 marks, right? And at the same time, you can like quantify all these different qualitative aspects, right? The confidence level and the creativity level, right? So the quantification is important, right? So that is what we mean by the interview scorecard, that you quantify all these qualitative aspects of the candidate, right? So at the end of the day, it will help you get a number of the guy, right? So that number will basically tell you that who to hire and whom not to hire for your startup, right? And that quantification is definitely based on your own requirement for the startup, right? And the next step is the conduct productive engaging interview, right? When the candidates come, right, that is only for those guys if you have advertised, right? If you have done headhunting and all those things, so definitely these things are not required, right? But if you have to choose among 3 or 4 candidates, then definitely all these tips will be important for you guys to remember, right? So by having a productive and engaging interview, right? So most of the time the candidates, when they appear for the interviews, right, so they are too stressed out, right? So just make them feel easy with you guys, right? And that can only happen if you just start taking interest in their profiles or in their careers, right? And even in their personal lives, right? Even in their extracurricular activities, right? So that will help them become a little bit at ease with you, right? And they will open up more. And when they open up, so you will have a better chance to understand them, right? So that is important, to have a productive, engaging interview with your potential candidates, right? The last one is do not leave them in dark, right? If you have offered them jobs, so then start off with some task, right? For example, if the guy is supposed to join from the 1st of February, right, then you should list down the different tasks, right? For example, he should meet someone, he should be trained, he is expected to do this and that, right? So those things will help them help that guy get a feeling of professionalism in your startup, right? So that is important. Imagine on the other hand, if that guy is like clueless about what's going to happen, and you just tell them join from the 1st of February, and he has no clue what is expected of him, or what are the different tasks, or he's going to meet whom, and all these different question marks in his mind. So definitely that doesn't give a very good feel about your startup, right? So starting up the relationship with the employee in a professional manner is so much important, because it will tell him in the long run that you are a very professional organization, and you take care of the business very seriously, right? So in total, these are 6 tips, not 5 tips for hiring the employees, right? Right, so why should someone join you, right? So it is recommended that you should have an employer value proposition, right? By the employer value proposition, it is like this is what we have written over here. It's not working. Okay, so this is the employer value proposition. By the employer value proposition, what we mean is that what you as an employer can honestly offer to the people, right? Is the value proposition of your business, or your products and the solutions, right? Now you have the employer value proposition, and that will basically tell what you can offer to the candidates in your startup, right? One is with the previous value proposition canvas, we knew that it evolves over time, right? So at the same time, your employer value proposition will improve over time period, right? Definitely, you have lesser finances now, so you can offer paid vacations. You cannot offer them increase in the salaries right now, right? But at the same time, if you are having more revenues after a year or 5 years, right? So definitely, you will offer more benefits and perks to the employees, right? So it evolves over time period. At the same time, it is important to be honest with your employer and tell them what is great about your business and what is not great about your business. Like, for example, the great thing about the business would be the employees can work from home, but the not so great thing could be there would be days that they would be working on the weekends and 18 hours a day, right? So that's not so great about your business. So just tell them, right? So that is the greats and the not so greats about your startup, right? And whatever you offer to the potential candidates or the new candidates or the new employees, right, it should be believable to every employee, even to the past employees, right? Because if you offer them something which is beyond your affordability, right, so definitely the previous employees will laugh at them, and they would laugh at you at the same time, right? So whatever you offer them, just tell them in plain words, right? And do not overpromise them, and it should be believable to every employee, right? Because your employees are the guys who are working with you are at the same time your storytellers, right? And whatever you are offering to them, offer them or create the value proposition with the recruits in the mind. Definitely, if you are recruiting the fresh graduates, right? So offer them experience, offer them profile. But if you are hiring a guy from a multinational corporation, right? So then you can offer them some shares, and you can offer them more benefits or positions at the same time, right? So your value proposition could be different for different employees, right? It could be like for the unmarried employees, it could be like more salary maybe, right? But for a married employee, it could be a car plus some benefits for the kids, right? So that will attract them at the same time. So create the employer value proposition with the recruits in the mind. That is what we mean, right? And at the same time, it is more than compensations and the benefits, right? Some people, they are happy with the freedom of work. Some people, they are happy with the position titles. Some people, they feel happy with the recognition at the same time, right? So it's different from people to people and from employee to employee, right? So you should know your employee very well to create that employer value proposition for your next employee, right? So that's it for that is a very brief lecture about how to hire and what makes the great teams, right, and the entrepreneurial teams for your startup, right? So if you have any question or if you want to add anything or from your experience about interviews and all those things, so I would like to see those things in the comment boxes, right? So thank you so much. Thank you.